And good morning, everybody. You are listening to BoqueteNOW Talk Radio on Radio Chiriqui 103.3 FM. We're running a few minutes late, but that is never a problem because our wonderful engineer Bolivar has his finger. He has found his keys. Yes. Oh my gosh, we have we're sponsored, by the way, lest I forget, by Big Daddy's Grill, Boulder 54, and the Tap Out Sport Zone. All three restaurants, I believe, are open now. I don't know if Boulder's open yet. I know the Tap Out is open.
Tap Out has barbecue now.
Oh, I know.
I had their barbecue.
Is it good?
They're good.
Good stuff, huh?
They are good.
Yeah, you can go on their Facebook page, and Chris has been kind enough to post their full menu.
Yes.
And so that's open. Of course, Big Daddy's is open, and I think Boulder's coming soon, too. We got a great show for you today. Cynthia Slade is here, and she has a Monday morning show from 10 to 11 with Barbara Fiorucci called On the Air, and it's a really great show. I've been on that show a couple of times, and it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And
when we're hard up for guests, we invite each other.
That's right. You see how that goes? Well, people are still a little nervous about getting out,
Yeah,
and I
absolutely.
understand that. I did the Tuesday talk last week on Mensa and all that, and there was maybe 20 people there, and the feedback.
Well, it can't hold much more than that, can it?
Well,
right
you can hold legally 50.
Half.
Yeah. But the feedback I got on it was people are just still a little uncomfortable about being in enclosed, spaces. So
I'm still that way.
Me too.
I went out for lunch with some friends of mine yesterday, and I was really happy that there was nobody else in the restaurant but us having lunch. So that was keeping us safer. But we were in the outdoor area.
Yeah.
And we chose a table that had the most exposure to fresh air.
To fresh air, yeah. That's what you got to do. For those of you watching on YouTube, or for those of you who are going to be watching on YouTube when I post a video Sunday, maybe, you'll notice that we're not wearing masks. And here's the reason why. Because we are, about 10 feet apart?
About that.
We're about 10 feet apart. We're outside. And we're facing different directions. And with the masks on, the audio gets kind of muffled sometimes. So
Although on my show, I always wear the mask.
And you do. But you guys sit kind of closer
we
together.
We sit close because we usually have a guest.
Yes, that's
true. And so Barbara and I are closer to each other.
Yeah.
And the guest is a little further from us, so we all wear masks.
Sure.
And we feel a little safer that way.
That's absolutely. And we've sprayed down our microphones and our hands and all that.
Did.
So, we're good here. A lot has happened since 1890s, don't you think?
1890s?
The 1890s is when Marconi invented the radio. Now, it's been in development, and there's been a lot of other people involved in that. But
yes, like us.
that was the beginning. He started the wireless radio and wireless company, which later became Marconi. So it's been It's the 1890 to 1990s, 100 years, and that's 130 years.
Wow.
That radio has been around, and the culmination of all of this wonderful technology is me and you sitting right here.
Isn't that the truth? The best of everything. Doesn't everyone out there listening to us agree with that?
Oh, yeah. Radio, we've both been involved on and off in radio for...
So my relationship with radio is different than yours.
Yes.
Because I haven't been an on-air persona most of my life like you have. Yeah. But my relationship with radio has to do with concerts.
Yeah.
And the spot, radios. So if a band was coming into your town, they were sponsored by the local promoter.
Yep.
Which was us, in the towns we were in, or the cities that we did. And then they were sponsored also by a local radio station.
Right.
And the local radio stations, what they did to get their name on the ticket, like produced by Fayline and KFML, to get their name on the ticket, they gave us advertising.
Sure, yeah.
And so
that was our end of it, yeah.
Yeah, that was your end of it. It was paying for the advertising. Or you gave us the free advertising. We also had to buy some. But, we got donuts from you and other things and whatnot. And I don't mean donuts you eat. I mean donuts as a spot. It's a spot within a spot.
Yeah.
So you'd promote our show, and then you'd promote your radio station, and then
go
finish,
back to
go back to our show. So, and that was purely the relationship. And I was thinking about it, but then there was another sponsor. So we as the local promoters got the radio stations to sponsor. And then there was the tour sponsor.
Yep.
And the tour sponsor could be anything from a beer company to who knows what today.
Local department store chain, whoever put the money up. Yeah.
Yeah, and they would, they would forward the money to the bands to tour, and then the bands made their multi-million-dollar tours.
And we would, and it's funny you mentioned about, not being the on-air personality, and that, I think that's probably in the chain of importance, probably the least important thing. Because I remember when I was working for WLIR-FM 92.7.
Hey, this is 103.3 FM, Ciento Tres Punto Tres.
When we were the major rock and roll radio station in that part of New York, out in Long Island. And we would work with promotion companies. We would work with sponsors. And when the bands came in, we sent engineers. Obviously, we had to have our engineers at the sound booth because we usually had the live show. So the on-air personality would just kind of sit there and twiddle their thumbs and watch this entire crew of engineers and sound people and cable runners and just and it wasn't just from our station. I mean, you had also the production company, you had the promotion company, and it was hours of getting everything set up. And the only thing the listener hears is, hey, this is Al Stefanelli, but coming at you live from Madison Square Garden, where we're presenting to you an exclusive concert by ZZ Top. And that's all you'd hear. And you think, well, that's everyone just showed up at the same time and flipped the switch.
Yeah, right.
There was so much work and prep work, and I guess for the promotion company, it's weeks in advance. The stuff
promotion starts 30 days out.
Yeah.
For most shows. Actually, much longer than that, because if you're doing a summer series,
right,
you start promoting the summer series in
6 months out, probably. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But some shows are actually sold out 4 months out. It depends on the show and who's doing it. And today it's a little different because today you have corporations promoting rather than individual promoters, which is a whole different ball game. I don't like it.
But
much.
It was more personable because I remember back in the late '70s. When we had major acts come through, Rolling Stones, Aerosmith, Ozzy Osbourne,
those are the ones we worked with.
They would come to the station and they would sit down and do interviews with whatever DJ was on there or maybe the program director, and we'd meet the promoters, we'd meet the production company people, we'd meet we'd meet everybody, and it wasn't a giant corporate atmosphere. Where everyone was coming in wearing suits. It was more.
No one wore a suit.
Right? Nobody
Who
ever came
suit?
in.
Are you kidding?
But
a suit in the 60s and 70s?
Here's
no
something
way.
funny though. I was sitting in the production room at WLIR. Was working on some commercials, and this guy came in. Obviously, he was led in the front door, and he was wearing a white Oxford shirt, a black tie, black slacks, and shiny black shoes. Had a cap on, kind of like this one, like an English driving cap.
Sounds like Holly. What's his name?
And hair in a ponytail, and sunglasses. And I did not recognize him. I didn't know who he was. I thought he was maybe somebody from the corporation that owned the radio station, and I can't remember the name of the corporation offhand. It was Ozzy Osbourne.
Oh, funny.
And he dressed that way, and he didn't tell me this personally. I never actually spoke to him, but Dennis McNamara, who was the station program director, said when he dressed that way, he was able to just walk freely around town. Nobody recognized him.
I'm sure.
And it was like a Clark Kent thing, because the only thing really he did to change his look was put sunglasses on and a hat. But it was the suit, it was the shirt and the tie and the slacks and the spats.
Yeah.
That no one just,
no one would.
No one, obviously, like Mick Jagger couldn't get away with that, but but it was a whole different atmosphere back 30 years ago, 40 years ago, as opposed to now. I talk to people now, and it's
and I'm going back 50 years
and
ago.
you're going back, a few years before that. So a lot has happened, and I think radio is still a great medium. It's still very personal,
and it still promotes concerts.
Yeah, it still does. But I know you've got some great stories from back in the day.
Well, let's see. You just mentioned talking about what it took to put a concert on.
Yeah.
From the production side of it, the physical production side. So we did a lot of shows at a place called Red Rocks in Colorado, which is an absolutely gorgeous outdoor natural amphitheater.
Wow.
It was actually a WPA project.
Really?
Yeah. And the sound in there is absolutely perfect. You could stand at the top and have someone on the stage and you could talk in normal voices and
still
hear
hear-
each
that's,
other.
Yeah, that's design. That's
Yeah,
that's
and-
acoustic design right there, man.
Well, it's nature's got
Nature's
this-
design,
Yeah, it's literally a natural amphitheater. I mean, it's in between these two massive red stone walls, basically, and I mean, it's gorgeous. It's a gorgeous place to see a concert. If you're in the audience and you're high enough up, you look over the stage and see the lights of Denver behind the stage.
wow.
It's gorgeous. I mean, really beautiful, beautiful place to see a concert. We were all, I blessed to have spent years there, and I got to go to the shows for free.
Yeah,
'cause-
yeah, that-
Well,
see,
no,
that's-
actually, I didn't get to go for free because we lost money on a lot of them.
Well, yeah,
not a
yeah.
lot, but some. Yeah. Anyway, but because of how it was built and when it was built, the bands would come in with these with their equipment, their production
Mm-hmm.
equipment, and they would come in these massive trucks.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the trucks couldn't get to the backstage area at Red Rocks. So we would unload the trucks. We'd have, the crew would have to unload the trucks onto another truck, to smaller trucks.
Uh-huh.
Those trucks would then drive them around the little curvy area,
Yeah.
which would take them maybe 4 minutes, 3 minutes, 2 minutes to go around that to get up to the lowest level of Red Rocks backstage area. They would then have to unload those trucks onto dollies and
man.
push them up, the equivalent of 3 flights of stairs, to the stage level. And that's how all shows got in and out. During one show, I'll never forget, one of my least favorite tours has always been Barry Manilow.
Uh-huh.
In fact, at one time I was forbidden to go to, they put in their contract that I couldn't come to the show.
No Cynthia.
Yeah, they actually put it in
You
because
shall not pass.
this is what happened. So there, we're paying stagehands to do the load in.
Uh-huh.
And stagehands are expensive. I mean, they're
Well, the union workers.
they're union
Yeah,
workers,
sure.
and they're expensive, and the load-in is maybe 3 hours because of the way you have to do that. So we're paying 20 guys or 10 guys for 3 hours to load in. And they had just started loading in, and his road manager comes up to me, and he says, we're not going to pay any fee for selling merchandise here. I said, excuse me?
What?
I said, first off, you signed a contract. The city of Denver owns Red Rocks. They get a piece of merchandise selling.
Sure.
We ran, and our company ran the merchandise. We paid people to stand there and sell it.
Mm-hmm.
We got a piece of the merchandise selling, and you get the rest of it,
yeah.
which is the bulk of it. I mean, we're not talking big percentages. We're talking 3, 4, 5%.
Sure.
And he said, well, Barry doesn't want to do that, so if we have to pay, then he's not playing. And I looked at this guy, and I turned around. I saw a stagehand, one of the crew right next to me, and said, stop the load-in. And he goes, what are you doing? I said, well, you said he's not playing. I can't not pay the city for your T-shirts.
Sure, yeah.
And it's not coming out of my pocket.
Right.
So if he's not playing, I'm not paying stagehands to load you in. He looked at me and says, never mind. You can take your money. And then the next year, the contract came in saying I couldn't be at the show,
Oh, my gosh.
which we crossed out.
Right? Yeah,
Yeah.
no, this will not fly.
And not only will it not fly, at that point, I was the only person that could sign the company checks.
See? That's right. That's the golden rule, right? Whoever has the gold makes the rules.
Right. Yeah, my partner and ex-husband, and may he rest in peace, he had a problem with gambling.
Yeah.
So he was taken off checking accounts.
Yeah, well, as probably was a good idea.
It was a very good
Yeah, it
idea
was a
at the
very
time,
good
yeah.
idea. Yeah, we did, the radio station I work for, not the talk radio in New York City, but the rock and roll radio station I work for. I was there for a couple of years. We worked a lot with promoters and with production companies, and sometimes in some shows, there were stage management companies that provided their own labor. Those are the union laborers. And, we never really had a throwdown, a huge problem. We did have some very strange requests of what goes in, what's included in the green room.
Oh, my gosh.
So to speak. We had one guy, I can't remember who it was. It might have been, I want to say Elvis Costello. And I could be wrong there, but it was in that genre. Who got an idea, whose request was repeated, I think, with another rock and roll band in the 80s, but he wanted 2 pounds of M&Ms in the green room.
That actually came from...
And they were only green M&Ms. And I've heard that over the years that other bands have had M&M things.
It actually originated, if I'm not mistaken, with Neil Diamond. And he used them, I think it was Neil Diamond, they were used to pace his show, and he would know how many more songs he had to do by the number of M&Ms were still left. Yeah.
Wow. We had another...
We had performed, the acts would send us these 12-page riders to the contract.
Riders. This is what we need,
right.
yeah.
And in the rider, it'd be something like, on stage there has to be 24 roses with all the thorns taken off.
To throw in
the audience, right?
Audience, yeah.
Or one of my favorites, and I don't remember which band it is offhand. It was we dealt with only major tours,
right,
and major bands. So, it was one of them. They required, it was close to $300 or $400 worth of alcohol at each concert, which they never drank. They packed it up and they took it all home.
Oh, well,
So at the end of the tour, they divided it up amongst everybody on the tour.
Sure.
And they all had, like thousands of dollars of really good wines.
Yeah.
And, top liqueurs and things like that. It was pretty funny. And you had to have it. You didn't, they'd come in and then count the bottles and make sure it was there.
And sometimes, a lot of the time, for the most part, those riders make sense. I mean,
no.
Roses without thorns on them. Okay, I can see that, but 3 pounds of green M&Ms and
that I can see also. It's the only one he wanted. You like the taste of them better? I think they all taste the same.
They all taste the same. It's like Fruit Loops. Fruit Loops all taste the same.
Yeah,
it don't matter.
And gummy bears.
I love gummy
They all
bears.
taste gummy.
They do. God, I love those things. Another.
So
thank you for reminding me of another food that I'm not allowed to eat.
Anytime, my pleasure. We did tours from one side of the continent to the other, from Hawaii to New York. And it was the tour, and not all the tours that we do in all the cities across, but we did the Stones tour in 72, every show.
Yeah.
Now, I didn't go to all of them because I had babies at home, but and actually had a baby in the oven, which I didn't know.
We were a stop on the 78 or 79 stuff. And now, I'm thinking, I need to call some friends of mine and find out if they still have the records, because they were typed. They weren't even printed on a dot matrix. They were all typed, of the production companies that we were involved with for the tours that came through, and see if your name pops on that. Because I got a feeling we probably might have ran into one another 40 years ago.
Well, this 72, the 72 Stones tour.
Yeah.
Would be before your time, because that's almost 50 years.
I was 10 years old.
Yeah, and I wasn't. I was 20-something.
Yeah.
I was 24.
Yeah. No, but the 79 tour, I got into radio before I got into talk radio at ABC and all that. I worked at this rock and roll radio station when I was 17. I got a job. I've always been fascinated with radio. I walked into the radio station and says, "Hey, can I have a job?" And they put me on the landline, which was their request line. And I stayed there for months. And one day, the guy who did the traffic and weather didn't show up. And John DeBella, who was the DJ, their morning guy, he came into the little box room that we were in with 2 telephones and said, "Can you read?" And I said, "Yeah." He said, "Follow me," and he threw me in this little booth and handed me this paper.
The weather report?
And the traffic and weather, and he says, 5, 4, and I'm like, but, apparently I did good, because that day was the last day I was on the request line. But I'm convinced, though, that was in 79, and you were involved in these tours, and we had the major acts come through. and we were a major radio station. We were a 50,000 watt rock and roll radio station. We had one competitor, WPLJ, and I still vomit a little in my mouth when I say that word.
Oh, come on.
Oh, it was a rivalry. And you know what? They were inching so close to us. To the number, we were in the number one spot for years, and they were so close to us. And we had a production meeting. We're like, okay, we got to do something to stem these guys because they're about to catch us and pass us. And as if it were a gift from heaven, this is in 79, 80, they changed their format from rock and roll to like pop, R&B and pop.
Really?
Out of nowhere. We were like, okay, thank you, radio gods, because they just went, they went away.
What did they do? Go disco?
They went, no, see, there were a few disco stations in the mid-'70s, and they never really competed with us. You know, there wasn't, it was a different audience. But WPLJ and WLIR were like, you know, Auburn and Alabama. Right, they were they were rivals, and just out of nowhere they changed their format, and they just went away. And WLIR stayed for years after I left, and they might still be there. I don't know. I haven't actually tuned into my radio garden app to see if they're still there or what they're doing. But in the late '80s, PLJ went. I think they went hip hop. And they gained a lot of air share there. But
do you know what the difference is between a W station and a K station?
East and West Coast.
Well, which side of the Mississippi?
Which side of the Mississippi? Yeah. You guys were all K, and we were all W.
Right.
Yeah.
Except that I grew up with listening to WGN.
Oh, Boston?
No,
Chicago. That's right. WGN. Yes. How can I
WCFL.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny because before FM was commercial, we all listened to AM radios.
Right.
That's what we had, and I know you got some music that you want to play, so let's get to that. And let's get to that.
The first concert I was ever involved with was this band. Can you play? Wait a minute, I'll tell you which one. Hold on. The second song.
Second song on the list.
Second song on the list.
Cherish is the word I use to describe all the feeling that I have fighting here for you inside. You don't know how many times I wish that I had told you. You don't know how many times I wish that I could hold you. You don't know how many times I wish that I could mold you into someone who could cherish me as much as I cherish you. Cherish is the word that more than a love. To the hole in my heart each time I realize that I am not gonna be the one to share your dreams, that I am not gonna be the one to share your schemes, that I am not gonna be the one to share what seems to be the life that you could cherish as much as I do yours. I'm beginning to think that man has never found the words that could make you want me, that have the right amount of letters, just the right sound that could make you hear, make you see that you are driving me out of my mind. Oh, I could say I need you, but then you'd realize that I want you, just like 1,000 other guys would say they love you, with all the rest of their lives, when all they wanted was to touch your face, your hands, and gaze into your eyes. Cherish is the word I use to describe all the feeling that I have hiding here for you
the Association was the
Yeah.
first band that I was ever involved as a promoter with. And I'll never forget, we did them at Denver University and at Colorado University in Boulder. And at the Boulder show, for some reason, I was walking across the stage during the rehearsal to get to backstage.
Yeah.
And I think it was the lead singer. I don't remember his name. Actually propositioned me. He thought I was some groupie. I mean, I was I was just barely 19 at the time, And so he saw this 19-year-old. And interestingly enough, so when I was in the concert business, heavily in it, which was, the late 60s, early, and all of the 70s, basically, up to the late 70s, it was a man's world. It was a man, like Billboard magazine called me up one day and said, for our conference this year, we'd like you to chair the women's table. I said, well, who's chairing the men's table? and I went, why am I separated out as something different?
Right.
Why wouldn't I be just on the promoters panel?
Table,
why, but no. And I refused. I absolutely refused to do it because there would have been maybe 2 or 3 of us on that whole panel.
As opposed to 20.
Right.
Yeah.
I might have been the only female at that time. There may have been one other, I think. And then the other women would have been from the agencies. Yeah. From major agencies. They had women as agents. But it was definitely a man's world. I remember there would be road managers that would call the office, and the receptionist would put the call through to me because I was always the first in the office, and the men they'd come in later. They were, sleeping in. I don't know why. Well, but the receptionist would, pass the call over to me. And I remember one road manager said to me, no, I'll wait till one of the men come in. And I'm like, okay, well, when you get to the concert, why don't you wait for one of the men to try and sign something also for you?
Like your checks.
Yeah, right. Like, come on, give me a break. Bill Graham, may he rest in peace, not the evangelist, but
he's already
Bill Graham, the promoter. Yeah. May he rest in peace also. I mean, nice guy. I liked Bill. We got along very well. Actually, I stayed at his house just a couple months before he died.
Passed away.
He died in a horrible crash of a helicopter into an electric pole.
Ooh, ouch.
Yeah. And Killer Khan was the name of Steve Kahn was the pilot who was the brother of a good friend of mine.
Oh wow!
So I mean, it was horrible. But anyway, he called the office one day, and our receptionist Kathy answered the phone, and she put him on hold. And I think I was on another call when he first called. I don't know, but finally, she says to me, he's really angry that I put him on hold. And she said he's yelling at me and cursing at me for putting him on hold. I'm like, okay, well, just give me the call. And I go, hello? And he goes, I said, Bill, hold on a second. I put him on hold and I never went back to the call.
There are certain tricks of the trade that I guess you can call.
Yeah, I mean, it's just,
Well, you got into promotions and concerts and all that
at the very beginning.
Yeah, that was 10 years before I did.
Yeah, but it was also at the very, very beginning of independent concert promoters. It was the very beginning of these tours, the Stones and the Who, and it was the very beginning of rock and roll that was part of the mainstay of young people for the next 30, 40 years, basically. Yeah. Well, Woodstock, all that stuff.
I remember, laying in my bed. I was maybe 10, 11 years old, maybe 12, probably closer to 10. And my dad had bought me a Texas Instruments little transistor radio, ran on a 9-volt battery, and this ear pillow speaker. It was like a little flying saucer, and you plugged it into the little radio, and I would go to sleep and wake up with a radio on, much to the chagrin of how many batteries my parents had to buy. But I grew up listening to Harry Harrison, Ron Lundy, Cousin Brucey, Brinken Belzer, all those guys. And it always fascinated me that who are these voices in the radio? And more importantly, how do I get to be the voice in the radio, you know? It was all through those AM radio days that I was really, really fascinated with how it all worked. And when I was 15 or 16 years old, I got a ham radio operator's license. I was determined to be on the radio.
You were still listening to AM, but FM had been taking over the mainstay.
They had been. And where I was, I'm sure it was in the mid-'70s.
No, before.
Early 70s, 72, 73.
By the late 60s, FM stations were already starting, and they were considered an underground station.
Right. So all of the real popular jocks, they were all still on AM radio. You know, where I'm from, I don't know. I can't speak for Chicago, but
no, in Chicago, yes.
But
up until the late 60s or early 70s.
So WABC, WNBC, 1010 Winds was a news channel. These were all AM radio stations, and you know, I got this ham radio operator's license. I think it was 1975, 76, and back then you had to apply for this license, and you had to take a broadcaster's test, which involved learning Morse code, which I forgot just about all of because it's like algebra, you know. And I got even more fascinated with it, and I remember the first time when I got my first car. It was a 1967 Chevy Impala SS, an exact duplicate of the one that the Winchesters drive in that show Supernatural. I had that car, and I wish I had that car still. But anyway, it had an AM, FM, 8-track radio in it, and I really had 8-track, right?
That lasted a long time.
And I had a built-in CB radio.
Wow! In your car?
In the car. It was all one unit. My dad had it. It was my dad's car. He had that installed. And that really was the first time, 78, 77, 78, around there is when I got the cars, when I discovered FM radio. And I discovered how much better it sounded. My dad was a bit of an audiophile, so he had a good stereo, had nice speakers and all that. And it blew my mind. Because I turned the radio on, and the first song that came on, I think it was off the Foreigner 4 album, Feels Like the First Time. Mm-hmm. And I cranked that up, and I'm driving, and I'm just speeding down the road. And, of course, the track changed in the middle of the song, you know. And it kept going. But that was the first time I heard that radio station that I ended up working for.
That's really interesting, because FM stations actually started in the late 60s.
Yeah.
Was the station that you worked for, was that an FM?
It was an FM station.
Yeah, it was an FM station.
It was an FM station. And they had been around for a while. I mean, they've been, I think, if my memory serves me correctly, the two radio stations, WLR and WPLJ, initially had the same owner. And then, you know, one bought the other one out, which made them rival. They've been around since 70, 71, so they were broadcasting.
Yeah.
But all the advertising dollars and all the corporate sponsorships, up until the time I was maybe 15, were still mainly going to the AM radio shows. And I remember Brinken Belzer, Richard Belzer, who I think just passed away, he was a morning radio DJ I listened to in the 70s, and he did an interview with Larry King. Remember him, Mr. Suspenders? Mm-hmm. And he was saying that, you know, he kept getting offers to work at FM radio stations, but at half the pay that he was getting for, I think he was on WABC.
Interesting.
And that's the New York market. Again, I don't know Boston, Chicago, you know, California, whatever, but that's the market that I was in for almost 22 years.
Wow.
Yeah. Did you have another song?
Did I what?
Did you have another song? Because I know we got
do
like
have
7 minutes left, and this is great about it. Goes by so fast.
And it's one of my favorite songs.
Bolivar.
The
engineer.
Are you going to play that?
It's ready.
It's ready. Here we go.
Just take those old records off the shelf. I sit and listen to them by myself. Today's music ain't got the same soul. I like that old time rock and roll. Don't try to take me to a disco. You'll never even get me out on the floor. In 10 minutes I'll be late for the door. I like that old time rock and
that's
Old time rock and roll.
Old time rock and roll.
And I love Bob Seger. Interesting. Here's an interesting little thing about Bob Seger concerts, right? So having produced many of them,
And here comes a motorcycle.
there it goes.
Live radio outside.
So, having produced, rock concerts and Seeger concerts at Red Rocks and the Coliseum and other places in Denver, when I moved to Chicago, Seeger was coming through, and I knew his road manager, and I called him up and said, "Hey, I'd like, some tickets." So he sent me some tickets to the, put me on the list for the tickets to the show. In Denver, the audience at a Seeger concert was very much like you and me and very normal people. So I invite my very conservative cousins, because they would have fit in the Denver at a Denver audience. I invite them to the Bob Seger concert with me in Chicago. It is all motorcycle people.
Oh, wow.
Every single one of them. I felt like I was in what's the big motorcycle conference they have?
Sturgis.
Sturgis. I felt like I was in Sturgis somewhere.
I've been to Sturgis. It's a madhouse.
Yeah. I mean, it was funny. I was like, I never felt so out of place in an audience in my life as that. And I'm like, this is Seeger's audience? And then it is in some cities.
Yeah, well, he's got a wide appeal. He still does. Always has had a very wide appeal. Really crosses, a lot of different markets.
I still listen to him.
I do too.
I love Seeger.
One of my favorite songs is "Night Moves." It always has been.
Oh, for sure.
And it's the only one that I could actually get away with singing if I drop it down a step and a half. I can't.
Well, let's hear you.
No, you don't want to do that.
Oh yeah, we do.
Maybe I have a couple of recordings at the house. Maybe I'll post it.
That'd be nice. I think that'd be good.
But
No, who is your favorite concert ever?
Oh my gosh, Billy Joel and Elton John tour together.
I heard that was really good. I never got to see it.
It was Elton John actually fell off the top of his piano. He was trying to do some sort of a stunt. And he got up, just like the Energizer Bunny, man, but he got up. But no, that was probably my favorite concert in that genre. I've seen Bruce Springsteen a bunch of times, but one of the most fun concerts that I've ever been to was ZZ Top at Madison Square Garden, I think 78, 79,
So we
maybe
played not football, but something similar to football on my front lawn with ZZ Top.
Like, that was a fun concert. Billy Squire, great show.
Great guys. That band, super nice guys in ZZ
Saw him
Top.
in Sunrise, Florida, many, many years ago, probably 30 years ago, 28, 30 years ago. But and as odd as it sounds, and I know we're about out of time here, one of the most musically rewarding concerts in the rock and roll era, genre that I've been to was, strangely enough, Ted Nugent.
Interesting.
Yeah, I saw him in the 70s, or maybe early 80s. It's kind of a fog. But it was a great show.
I think,
aside from what you might think about him personally, blah, 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 his concert was so well produced. It was not just technically perfect, but there was a lot of energy there. And
nice.
The interaction he had with his band and with the audience, and the band's interaction with the audience.
Very nice.
It was a great show, and I still put his tracks on in my studio when I'm playing my drums.
So my all-time favorite was the Moody Blues Question of Balance tour.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
I mean,
how could you pick a favorite, right? Though
it is my all-time favorite. I have other concerts that I've loved, and many concerts that I stood at the side of the stage dancing to. But I actually, for the Moody Blues, I grabbed a ticket and sat 5 rows back, center for that show.
See, so
it's the only concert that we produced that I ever sat down and watched.
Wow. So you heard it here. Cynthia Slade's favorite concert was the Moody Blues. What tour was that?
Question of Balance.
Question of Balance. And mine was, without question.
Ted Nugent.
Well, no, that was one of my favorite in that. My all-time favorite was the Billy Joel Elton John concert, mainly because I'm a piano player, I guess, and I grew up 6 blocks away from Billy Joel.
Did you?
Yeah, I did. That's a whole other show. But we are out of time. Hey,
that went quick.
Radio goes fast, man.
Yeah.
Mondays at 10 o'clock. Don't miss
on the air with Cynthia and Barbara.
That's right.
Or on the air with Barbara and Cynthia.
Or
Either way you want to
you
say
should
it.
switch, swap it
We
off,
do
right?
that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. And that's Mondays and Saturday, I think. Well, now Mike Weber's got a new times for his show. Noon on Friday and Monday. And Dr. Shannon
is on
is
10
on Saturday.
a.m. on Saturdays.
And of
tomorrow.
course, Boquete.NOW. And I want to thank everyone for listening in. We had a lot of fun. It's always a lot of fun.
On 103.3.
103.3. You've been listening to Boquete.NOW, Radio Chiriqui, 103.3 FM, sponsored by Big Daddy's Grill, Boulder 54, Tap Out Sport Zone. You all enjoy the rest of this rainy day. Paso un día, mi amigos, mi amigas, mi familia.